Happy New Year and welcome back to the One Shot Show. What you're about to listen to is January's bonus episode. This is the final bonus episode from our first recording block. We've recorded a whole bunch of new ones as well that are going to be released over the next few months. So if you find yourself enjoying this one, maybe subscribe on Patreon so that you can listen to all the others. Other than that, enjoy.
Hello and welcome to this special episode of the One Shot Show here on Patreon. You are a GM, you are here to level up. I am here and Matt is here. Hey Matt.
Hi, I'm also here.
And we are going to be talking about another form of narrative structure, a storytelling technique, a technique that originated in writing in East Asia, but which I have used a lot in my game design and adventure design. This is tying in a little bit to the mice quotient that we'd spoken about before, but you could also think of it in terms of things like the hero's journey or the 3-act structure. What we're going to be talking about today is Kishōtenketsu, which is a narrative structure that I learned about initially when I was working in devised theater and I was seeking a structure to devise a show around. I stumbled across this. I can't even remember the pathway that I got to, but it's quickly become a structure that has dominated my thinking on how to create stories that will surprise my players in the way that they are structured and composed. But to do a little rewind first, like story structure. Story structure is such a useful thing as a GM.
Yeah.
You lean on it? Do you think about it when you design?
The answer actually is no, because now I'm so familiar with it. And I actually think this is one of the funny things, even, when you first learn about things like the hero's journey and the 3-act structure, actually, by the time you learn about them, you are already intimately familiar with them.
Yeah.
Because they suffuse just about every story you've ever been told through your life up until that point. Everything from Little Red Riding Hood all the way up to Pulp Fiction, right? I'm always so fascinated, though, by storytelling techniques that come from totally different traditions. Because even if under the hood you may be able to look at the structure and go, well, that is also similar to the hero's journey in this way, it is this different way of conceiving of them. And there's just these really interesting structures that come out of that. I also want to share a small anecdote about Japanese theater that I love. Because again, I'm so fascinated by how these different traditions of art and storytelling have created these new things in our modern world as cultures sort of intermingle and synthesize one another. The modern depiction of ninjas comes from Japanese theater, and it is because in a guy dressed in all black, tightly wrapped cloth, and that is because in traditional Japanese theater, that is how the stagehands would dress. And it was not uncommon for stagehands to be moving things in the background of a live scene that was actually happening. So what happened was audiences filtered them out. And then one playwright had the genius idea to have an assassin dress like a stagehand. And when they suddenly stepped into the foreground and murdered one of the actors, and then pulled off the cloth and revealed, it was I, the assassin, it rocked Japanese theater. It changed Japanese. No one had ever seen anything like that before. It was incredible. And you can imagine how cool that reveal would be. And because of that, that's now how ninjas dress in all storytelling mediums, because that just carried on all the way through Japanese theater. It went all the way into early Japanese cinema. And now when you picture a ninja, you picture a guy in tightly wrapped black cloth, even though real ninjas, real shinobi would have never dressed like that. And that's so fascinating to me. Anyway, on with the topic.
As a huge theater advocate, I love to hear that story. It's continued essence. I love what you're saying there as well, because what Kishōtenketsu has to it is associated with a lot of like very eminent works of Japanese literature and texts. And the most obvious.
Have you read The Tale of Genji?
I have not read The Tale of Genji.
I assumed that was what you're about to say.
No, I was not about to go there.
Okay.
I was going to go like when we think like as a contemporary audience who maybe the first experience of a text from Japan that I experienced was a Studio Ghibli film, and there is an ineffable a quality to those films that you aren't quite sure how and why the magic of them is achieved. And it's through multiple layers of artistry. But sitting at the story level is Kishōtenketsu. So I might break that down a little switch now, a little bit by bit.
If there's one thing I know about Japanese, it is that it's a syllabic language, and I assume that this is a word made up of these multiple syllables that have inherent meanings of their own.
Absolutely. 4 parts: ki, sho, ten, and ketsu. Each part representing a chronological step in a story design, in a narrative design. Ki is where you begin. You are establishing character. You are establishing world inside ki. This is your first introductory scene in My Neighbor Totoro. We are meeting the 2 young girls. They're moving to the countryside. Their father. We get the context that the mother is sick, and we get the context of the world that we are living in. Next comes sho, which is where the character and the world develops to its next level, a deeper level of understanding. You come to understand the responses that each of the girls has to their mother's sickness and to the scenario that they are in. The world is also revealed to be inherently magical. We meet the soot sprites. We meet Totoro. These things are developed and fleshed out for a while. We spend a while inside sho.
I was going to say you are halfway through these 4 movements, and nothing has happened in the traditional sense of plot.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that nothing is happening, but action hasn't necessarily taken place. There isn't necessarily a reason for the plot to go. And yet, I mean, I love that you're using a Studio Ghibli film to describe this. When you sit down and you watch, you're so entranced by it. It creates this beautiful mood and this incredible sense of place. The Western cinema equivalent of this is when we sit down and watch movies that just sort of ooze atmosphere. And for a while, there might not be a whole lot of plot and things going. We have all these ideas about, the scene needs to have certain action in it. But then the director, because they want you to just immerse in the world, they spend as much time as they can not doing the action. Like Blade Runner 2049 comes to mind. Drive is another classic one, where you spend so much time just setting the fucking vibe before anything happens. And if you ask people what they love about Blade Runner 2049, no one says the fact that action happens. The story and its meaning matters a lot. The sets are beautiful. The shots are incredible. The story? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah. It's often called, Kishōtenketsu can often be called a conflict-free possibility for a narrative structure. The reason being is what comes in next. Pretty much when your audience interest has plateaued at sho.
Talk to me about 10.
Is 10, which is the general idea of twist. Now I'm going to caveat and say it's not twist as we understand it primarily in like the context of what are some of the great classic movie twists.
It's not necessarily a subversion or a surprise.
Yes.
It's an event.
Yes. Or it's not even that. A disruptor. A disruptor to the audience as well as to the characters.
If you want to listen to the full version of that bonus episode on Kishōtenketsu story structures, then you're going to have to go ahead and subscribe to us on Patreon. Every little bit helps support the show. You'll also, over the next month, get our next batch of bonus episodes where we're going to be talking about puzzle design in depth, something called ludomechanical dissonance. We're going to be designing villains as a companion piece to one of our regular weekly episodes, and we're also doing a special R18 episode on how to handle sex and relationships at the table. So make sure you're supporting us on Patreon to access all of those fantastic episodes.